Good morning, students. So today we'll discuss about three things, that is partitioning, buffering and spooling. So before understanding about the partitioning, buffering and spooling, let us understand how a computer works and how a computer functions. We are already learned about the different functional unit, but in fact physically how the computer is work. Now in this diagram try to understand how physically the computer is work. So each and every instruction is executed at the CPU under the ALU. CPU के अंदर जो ALU, each and everything will be executed at the ALU. The CPU is interact with the memory, which is nothing than the primary memory of the computer. The primary memory is connected with the input device, output device as well as the storage device. The input device, output device as well as the storage device. So whatever we are going to calculate, suppose for a simple calculation I am doing 5 into 2 divided by 10 into 2 divided by 5. Suppose this much calculation we want to do, then what happen? These are known, the complete is known as an instruction, and the 10 to 5 these are known as the data. So the data are stored in the storage or can be entered from the input device. The data is stored in the storage or can be taken from the input device. Two things are there. The data either stored in the storage, from the storage the data can be taken or can be entered from the input unit. Okay, now what happened here? The input unit as well as the output unit is connected with the memory, and it is the operating system to manage the devices, that is the input device or output device or the storage management. Okay, so first we'll go for the partitioning. In case of partitioning, what happened? It's a kind of memory management. In case of memory management, what happened? Suppose these are 4 tasks that are going to be executed. Like this is one task. Suppose 3 more tasks are there. So this task are either this task can be taken from the input or from the storage. But what happened here? Suppose these 4 tasks are there, which are either taken from the storage or taken from the input device. So what is happening over here? In case of partitioning, these 4 tasks are completely or at a time moved to the memory. That means the total memory is now divided into suppose 4 parts. Each of these part is known as a partition. Each of these part is known as a partition. Now suppose here task 1 has been stored, here task 2 has been stored, here task 3 has been stored, here task 4 has been stored. So these are the 4 partitions that store 4 tasks simultaneously, so that whenever the CPU need to execute any task, the CPU will directly not interact with the input device or output device or the storage, because these are very slower than the memory. Memory is slower than the CPU, but these devices are more slower than the memory. So from the memory it can take any of the data, any of the task and execute this. This is in case of multitask. Suppose a single task is there, suppose only task 1 is there, then what happens in case of partitioning? The task itself divided into different parts. Suppose task part 1, part 2, part 3. Now each part is divided in a single partition. each part is divided in a single partition. That means the complete, whatever be the complete task that is divided into smaller parts, and each part is stored in a single partition. So that from the partition itself it's moved to the ALU for calculation. Likewise, in case of partitioning, the operating system is managing the memory. The complete task, partitioning of the memory or assigning the task to the partition. Both of these tasks or both of this function is executed by the operating system only. It is the job of the operating system. Now this is how the partitioning is worked. The second thing is a buffering. Now, in case of buffering, what happens? There are special part of memory has been assigned. This part of memory is assigned for suppose input. This part of memory is suppose assigned for output. These are known as a buffer. Now the data from the input device or to the output device, whatever data we want to interact with the ALU or the CPU, that data will be stored in this buffer. In this buffer the data will be stored so that the ALU or the CPU will not directly interact with the input device or the output device. Whenever it need to interact with the input or output device, it will take the data or put the data into the input buffer or the output buffer. Because in this case what happened? The speed of CPU is much more higher than the speed of input device and output device. Suppose it need to take some printout. So for some time needed to take the printout. Up to that period of time, the CPU have to be idle or have to be wait so that the printer will complete its task. To avoid that waiting period, what happens? The CPU send that command to the output buffer and itself become free now for the next instruction to be executed. Now what happens? It is the responsibility of the operating system. From the buffer it will move to the output device so that the memory, so that the output device or so that the printer can take the printout whatever the command given by the CPU. So this is the second thing. First one the partitioning, second one is the buffering. The third one is the spooling. In case of spooling, which is generally used for the your network system where multiple users are using the same command. So suppose this task 1, task 2, task 3. This task 1, task 2 and task 3 are nothing than the command for taking printout which is assigned by these 4 computers at the same time. Suppose computer 1 is trying to print task 1, computer 2 is trying to print task 2, the 3 is trying to part 4 and the 4 is trying for part 3. Task 3. So this is the task 1, task 2, task 3 and task 4. These 4 tasks are given by 4 different computers simultaneously for taking printout. How? Computer 1, printout 1 or task 1, computer 2, task 2, computer 3 is your task 4 and computer 4 is your task 3. Okay. So what happened here? Now simultaneously all the commands are appear. Okay. And commands are given to the server in this case. I told you before, the server is the main computer that used to control and coordinate other computers. So these 4 computers are controlled and coordinated by a computer which is known as the server, and that server is attached with a printer. These computers are commanding or requesting for taking printouts. Clear? Now what happened? The operating system of that operating system of this server will create a spool. It creates a spool that is nothing than a queue. That is nothing than a queue, so that the command are assigned in a priority basis like task 1, task 2, task 3, task 4. These are now available, or now these are waiting in a queue, and rest of the thing, the ALU, the memory, the input are freed up now because they don't have any kind of task. The task is only between the server and the printer. The server and the printer accept the interference of ALU, memory and the input and the storage. Now this is the task of the operating system, that according in the queue, according to the number assigned to the task. Task 1 will be executed first. That means the print command given by the computer 1 will be printed first. Then computer 2 will be printed. Then computer 4 will be printed. Then computer 3 will be printed. Now this is how the spooling works. One more doubt you have, that is the real-time operating system. As I told you, in case of real-time operating system, it is an operating system for the robots, or it is a robotic operating system in which the commands must be executed in a specific period of time. It must be executed in a specific period of time, and that period of time is known as a deadline. It is known as a deadline. For example, a robot is used to convert the logical command into some physical work. Robot जो है वो physical work करता है. So whatever be the command given by the computer or keyboard or voice command, any kind of command we are giving, the robot will convert that command to some physical work. And for any kind of physical work, it needs some time, and the time must be bound. Suppose first I order a command, I order a robot to walk up to the table. The robot will walk up to the table. This is the first command. The second command is pick up the cup of tea. And the third command I am giving, return to original position. The fourth command is hand over the cup to me. Now these are the four commands given to a robot. Walk up to the table, pick up the cup of tea, return to original position, hand over the cup to me. Now it needs a specific period for execution. Before completion of the walk up to the table, the robot is unable to pick up the cup of tea. Before walking to the table, the robot is unable to pick up the cup of tea. Again, before pick up the cup of tea, it is unable to return to the original position. Without returning to its original position, it is not possible to hand over the cup of tea. So here a specific period of time needed for execution of each command. Okay, that command, the time period is known as the deadline. And sometimes there is a possibility that this deadline may be lengthier. That means suppose 2 seconds are given to walk up to the table. Sometimes it needs 2.1 second or 2.2 seconds. This kind of situation is known as a run over deadline. Run over deadline. So that run over deadline is the condition which is a bad condition for any kind of robot. So the less is the run over time, the better is the performance of the robot. Now this is how the deadline is decided. When we are giving a command to a robot, we have to decide the deadline, how much time it needs for that particular task. And within that period of time only, the computer has to complete the task, and it will receive the next command for execution. I think this much is enough for today, and you will get confused. You have get the clear your doubts. So if you have any doubt, you can ask in my number. Thank you and have a nice day.